Hello there. And trying something out a little different this time than signing on. It was interesting, let's say that. So I'm going to be continuing the painting I was working on last time today. And hi Patricia and Schmelkelberry. And I'm going to be working on the clouds today. So I worked on the sky last time, painted in a few of the clouds. You know, up until now, a few of them are done. Of course, some other ones are not done. That's why they're still white. And so I also worked on the mountains here. And I wanted to do them specifically before I worked on the clouds because the mountains are so dark and they're going to have a bunch of white snow on the top. And, you know, I'm definitely going to be painting over several parts that I already just painted in recently. But I wanted to do that part first because it's so much darker that it really changes the way the sky looks once you have the mountains in there already. So it's just the way painting is. It's always evolving from one step to the next, and everything just continues changing as you're going along. So that's about it for my little intro here, and I'm going to get to it. So I'm going to start off with this cloud up here, I think. And I've got my paint out already today because I was already working on this earlier. So just got some more of this titanium lead white out, and I'm going to actually get a little bit of linseed oil to add in there because it's separated a little bit in the tube, so just need a tiny bit of oil to add to it, but not much. One drop is probably enough for that. And then I'm going to just get back in there up to the top area for that one cloud in the middle. So I'm just going to work this in real quick, and then that's it. No fancy mixing going on here. And I actually already have a whole bunch of this blue mixed up. It's very close to the blue out of the tube, the cerulean I've been using, but there's a little bit of black mixed in there just to give it a slight gray. And so I can just take from there, and I have that foil to cover it, so it's not going to just dry out. I can just take a little bit at a time as I need it, so it's nice to not have to stop and remix it. So just get some of this right over here, mix it in with a little bit of this blue, and I think I'll cover that up for now. You can leave things in that foil for a really long time, like I've probably said before, but really it'll last for months or maybe even years, just like in a tube. Okay, and so I think I'm going to just take a look at this cloud and decide if I want to do the shadow first or the light areas. So, Captain Cabinets, hey! Thanks for joining. You are the other half of... I'm just trying to remember, I just saw you guys the other night. I only saw you that one time, but I remember what your wife was working on. So I'm using oil paint, and her painting was looking really cool. I'd like to see how it came out. Hey Summer. So thank you. But yeah, I'm using oil paint. I don't really paint in pretty much anything but oils at this point. I'm just like a real oil person. So I used to work in acrylics years ago, every once in a while, and watercolor and different things like that, which I think it's fine to work in other mediums also. But this is really my medium. You know, this is like what I kind of always wanted to work on, you know, what I always wanted to use since I was much younger. Just Madeline, there you go. Yes, tell Madeline I said hi. So I'll have to check you guys out again sometime. Now I'm looking at how dark this area is down on the bottom here because some of the clouds are not as dark as others on the bottom. The one on the left here is extra dark. This one in the middle, definitely not quite as much so. I don't want to like just look at the one and do the same thing on the other one without really checking the reference. So this is still fairly dark, but not quite as much as what we have over there. I feel like that's probably right around where it needs to be. Okay. And so I'm going to just put this in here, and I kind of did like a sort of feathering on the edge here when I was doing the blue sky. Sort of anticipating what I was going to be doing when I was actually doing the clouds like I am right now. But you know, you never really know what it's going to be like. There's certain places that maybe that soft edge looks nice, but other places it maybe is a little bit too soft and you need it a little bit kind of more defined. So like there's some places like this one right over here, or that area right over here. I kind of went over the soft part just to kind of get it looking more solid at the top there, because sometimes you see that on the top of the clouds, but you know, they change. They're always kind of doing their own thing. So there's also this little separation right here, or that kind of a little piece in the back. I spend a lot of time, well, when I'm outside anyway, looking up at clouds. There's a lot of things that you usually see going on with them that I think a lot of people miss because they're just not really watching them, which is too bad because sometimes there's some really cool things going on. But I think clouds are really interesting because it's this kind of world that's just always going on up there, regardless of what's happening. You know, it could be overcast or storm clouds or wispy clouds or whatever, but there's always something happening. Whenever I see one of those really gigantic clouds, when it's like a supercell, it's just forming. And I don't really see that too often, but I was really stop and pay attention to them, or especially if it's happening around like sunset. You know, that's pretty rare. Like those two things happening at the same time, if there's, you know, some like pink or orange hitting the side of it or something, that's like one of my favorite things. So I'm just adding a little white as I'm coming up here, and looking at my reference, I'm keeping it a little bit free, but trying to keep it, you know, not too different from what's going on with the actual cloud in the reference photo. So this white I'm doing at the top, you're not going to really see too much of it, but you know, I cover all the gesso. Whoops, that wasn't supposed to go that high. Anyway, cover all the gesso even though it's white. You know, I don't really want to have any places that are just like this smooth gesso showing through, and you know, it's not exactly the same white also. When you go over it, you can kind of see just maybe a little bit kind of more yellowish, or not quite as bright when you actually put the paint on there. So I don't know if I want to keep that, but I'll just leave it for right now. That's not what that's not what you call a happy accident. That was just, you know, an accident. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but we'll find out soon enough. So the tops are going to be, you know, a lot wider, or not wider, but whiter than, you know, the other parts of the clouds, and you know, there's areas that are lighter as you come down that they almost seem like, in some cases, they're white, but you know, if you really pay attention, they're actually not. And I don't know where that darker color just came from. That wasn't supposed to be dark. I think I might need to wipe that off. I don't know. Somehow a chunk of something darker was just hidden in the white just now. Hey, Anita. So, you know what? I'm gonna just leave it. Sometimes you can just get away with going over things and covering them if they're not the way you want. That actually looks kind of nice the way it is. Just add a little bit more in there. When you get these really, really tight value ranges on the clouds like this, you know, it's just this very small range of light and dark, because they're all, even the dark is still very light. You know, it really doesn't take much to show a shadow in a place like that. So the tiniest little change will really show up, especially for white, you know, any light color, but especially white. So I think I'm gonna put a little bit right over here. I'm kind of blending this as I'm putting it in there at the same time. The clouds, there's this thing with clouds where, depending on how you have the paint on your brush, you can kind of sometimes get it to sort of do the type of thing that you're seeing very effortlessly, but I haven't completely figured out how to do that every time at this point with how many times I've painted clouds, and you know, eventually I'll maybe get it, but there's a way you can kind of just paint things without really stressing over it and having to put in a ton of effort and going back over it lots of times. Sometimes you can just get it right on the first try and it just looks really nice. So I've had that happen a few times with clouds where, you know, some of those really subtle changes in the shadow and stuff happen. I really like how it looks. So now I've got this one really dark area here, a little bit too dark at this point. I just have to soften that right there. But it's kind of cutting in, making this little shadow area. There's actually, I think, a different thing happening in the reference right there. I'm not even sure, or maybe not. But it's kind of given the appearance of this little like area that's kind of carved out right there, which I like. This is why I like cumulus clouds the most, is they're the most dimensional ones. You know, a lot of clouds tend to look a lot flatter, you know, the other kinds. You know, sometimes like cirrus clouds are those long stringy ones, which are actually made up of lots of little frozen vapor particles. So they kind of scatter across the sky like sand, just blowing in a, you know, sort of like a desert. But it's very interesting just how the different clouds all act differently depending on, you know, what's going on at that specific level in the sky, you know, how high up it is, you know, and the pressure and different things that change. Actually, I'm really liking the way this looks right here. I'm not going to mess with that. I am going to make it a little bit darker down here. Now that I have it painted in some more, I can see that I think I want it to be a little bit darker here. I'm looking at how this looks compared to the sky also. So it's, I could probably leave it, but I'm going to just bring it down a little bit lower. The value there. Move this mic, this camera over a little bit here. No, I'm gonna just angle my computer. Actually, I've got this flipped on the top of my computer. All right, I guess that's okay. God forbid you can't see my face for 5 seconds. What would you do? So this little area down here doesn't really need very much, and I don't really want to go up too high. It's just gonna kind of be the bottom edge there. And maybe just a little bit more here, and then I'm going to keep going to the next area. I'm going to just go over a bigger spot here. This is again, like, this is a little bit higher up on the painting, so I'm getting a lot of reflections happening from my light, so that's why I'm standing on my tippy toes. I don't really want to get the chair out, but that's not out of the question for later. Okay. I want to make sure I also go around this edge here where there's that sort of feathery stuff I did last time. If there's anything that's lighter than what I'm doing here, it needs to get covered up because it'll just look kind of weird if I don't. Now there's that one little spot there that was an accident. Schmuckleberry. Bring in the emotes. That's very nice. Is that Danny DeVito? Oh, good. Nice. Everyone, Danny DeVito's here watching. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to put in a little bit more here because that just looks weird the way it is. I would just probably leave it. If not for that one little thing I did before that wasn't really supposed to be there. But whatever. And the clouds tend to do, I mean, I've spent a lot of time just looking at clouds, like I was saying. It's just, they sort of go upwards, almost like, just think of the way that smoke works on a campfire. It just kind of goes up in the middle and it kind of poofs out after it gets up a certain level. So, you know, you kind of see individual clouds kind of sometimes do that. Or if you have one of those gigantic ones like I was talking about, you really see it just happening like this big funnel going upwards. I mean, funnel maybe is not the right word. I guess that's okay the way it is. I'm gonna leave that. So I'm gonna keep going over here. I'm doing good. How you doing, Mochaberry? I'm liking how these clouds are going. You ever work on any cloud paintings or landscapes that have clouds in them? Oh, so the foil I just use to cover up the old paint. Like when I'm done for the night, I'll just, like I have underneath here, there's the blue. Okay, there's the blue that I'm using to mix into the clouds over here for, you know, the white, the different light and dark areas of the clouds. And then over here I have some gray that I put out. It's kind of black and gray that I originally got out. And then I realized it was too dark for what I needed for the clouds because they're mostly just like blue and a tiny bit of black. And then I have actually green over here from the bridge painting. So you can just keep them in there for a long time. And, you know, use it whenever you need. Sometimes I just get to a point where I'm like, I don't need this, and I just throw it out. But, you know, if you need it, it's a very convenient way of just saving your paint and not wasting it. I always feel bad wasting paint, but it's kind of part of painting. There's going to be some that doesn't get used. Something else I've done, not so much lately, but you can just take old paint and kind of put it on a surface and just kind of smear it around and use that as sort of like an interesting ground or whatever to start for another painting at some point in the future. So one thing about doing that is it's not really the absolute best thing to have a whole bunch of different kinds of pigments that you're using together on a painting. You know, if you can kind of keep it to a little bit more of a minimum, which is generally safer, but not a huge deal. But I've done you know, one or two like that, which is kind of cool to have like a sort of almost like random thing that you're starting with that you created yourself, but you didn't know what it was going to be for. Okay, so I'm gonna jump up here now. So it's going past this shadow into the light area. And I'm gonna have to bring this paint together. It's just spreading out all over the place. Hey, Daniel. So I'm gonna gather it together and then keep going. Okay, so this is a little bit too dark right now. I need like an in-between from the shadow to the light area. So just like that. No, still a little bit dark. This is one of those places that you can really, I feel like, well, for me anyway, it's a little easier to paint kind of thicker, where I don't really paint that thick to begin with in most cases, but sometimes the paint kind of just like does this thing where there's like one color on the brush in one spot and then you have another color in another place and they kind of mix together in sort of an interesting way while you're painting. So that can happen with the clouds here. Or it just makes a mess, you know, one or the other. Okay, so I need to get some more this sort of like shadow color here. I'm gonna just push this over. So that's my new like mid-tone right there. I'm gonna just get out this darker blue. Just like that, and that'll go kind of a long way when you mix it into the white. This is a really small area that I'm using for my palette, but I'm only really going back and forth between two colors, so it's not really that big of a deal. Like probably for a lot of other things, I'd want to like move some of the foil over and, you know, get some more room because I'd be kind of cramped, but this is okay, just as it is right now. So even with that blue, like adding white into it, this is maybe a little bit still on the darker side, but you know, there's a few places where I'll be needing something like that. Where is the sun at? Well, a little hard to tell in this picture. I think this photo actually was given to me by the client from a professional photographer that did a shoot with them. I think he combines definitely at least two pictures, maybe even three, because there's places where the light, it's kind of like I was, you know, looking at that myself before I started painting, and it looks like the sun is not really out. Like you don't have any hard shadows for the most part, but there's one place over here where the mountain's getting hit by some sunlight. So that's a little bit of a tricky question. But it seems to be coming from somewhere on the right. Maybe there's just a lot of clouds in the sky. I mean, I think probably what happened was when they did this shoot, the sky was just really overcast and it didn't look like this at all. So they, you know, the photographer just added in some clouds to make it look nicer. So this is looking just a little bit kind of needs something a little bit more unique going on someplace, but it's not too far off from how it looks in the reference. All right, so I'm going to add in some more white just to kind of bring this up some more on the top here. And I think I like that better already, actually. Sometimes all it takes is a little, just something. I don't know, I could leave that the way it is. Okay, hi Anita. Well, good luck with your internet. The sky is warmer and lighter at the sun. Well, yeah. One of the things that, yeah, I mean, like, depending on where the sky is, like what time of day it is and things like that, the light is not necessarily warmer. I mean, you have the blue of the sky, which will show up in shadows, which can make things look cooler that are not, you know, directly in the sunlight. But, you know, sunlight in general is really actually white, a pretty neutral white, unless it's getting close to, you know, sun up or sundown. So that's just one of those things, like a lot of people think that the sun is yellow, and it's not really. You know, it's like, you know, the sunset colors make people think that, but really if the sun was yellow, everything you saw when you went outside would just look yellow all the time. So But in general, there is like a whole warmer thing with things that are in the sunlight versus, you know, things that are in the shadow. So yeah, everything is pretty cool in this painting. Actually warmed up the couple from the original photo I got. They were like really very cold tones, which I think was probably added in there by the photographer. So I just kind of touched that up to make it look a little bit more like, you know, typical flesh tones. So it's fine to do that kind of thing just as like a stylistic thing or to play around or whatever. Especially if there's a shoot where there's several different photos. Now this one is kind of just isolated around the sides, this little area right here. It's pretty dark, and then it's just, you know, actually I can't even tell if this is two clouds or not. It looks like maybe it might be one in front of another. Well, how do I get commissions? Well, people just find me online. That's usually how it works. So, you know, I guess there's people that do various things where you can advertise. Like, I don't really at this point advertise, but you know, you can like advertise on Google depending on certain keywords or things like that. The best way to get a commission is by just word of mouth with somebody that you know, or like a friend of a friend or family or whatever, because that way they already kind of have a built-in like trust. You don't have to like worry about them kind of being concerned about you being, you know, a scammer or something like that. But you know, there's people out there that are looking also. I mean, you can get on certain websites and sell paintings on there, and they might have some kind of policy for commissions where if somebody wants to hire you through the website, then, you know, you pay part of the commission to the website or whatever. Whatever, something like that. Have you done any commissions, Schmuckleberry? There's a little bit of texture here, but pretty subtle. You know, you haven't painted for a while lately. You know, I think I'm going to leave that. It's not exactly like the photo right now, but it's fine the way it is, so I'm going to just keep going and leave it. Well, you know, there's all kinds of art forms. Whatever you're good at, just excel at that. If you do get a commission at some point, I've seen some people that kind of, you know, have posted online or different places that got a commission, and then they're like, what do I do now? But one thing I would say to always do, no matter who it is make a contract, even if it's just like a really basic one, just so that everybody knows what they're getting into. There's no surprises later, because you don't have the same idea about things, or if you're, you know, doing something for somebody that doesn't have a great memory, you don't want surprises later. I've had a couple of bad influences, not influences, a couple of bad experiences many years ago before I started using, well, actually, I guess really just one. Before I was using, no, you know what? Actually, it was two. Yeah, before I was using contracts, and both of them were guys from high school that I did something for. And the one was after I graduated from high school and it was out of college. This guy had hired me to do a drawing for him. Did the drawing. Spent like 40 or 45 hours on it. Called the guy up. Told him it was done. Didn't hear back. Called him again. Nothing back. Did this like 3 or 4 times. And eventually, I just gave up because it was clear he was just not going to pay me for it. He never got the artwork. But that was, you know, a guy I knew. Wasn't even like a guy that I just randomly met somewhere or whatever. And well, I got a kind of a cool drawing that I did for like my portfolio out of it, so it wasn't a total waste, but that was not cool. So that was the last time I ever did anything without a contract for anybody. I mean, aside from if it's like something very basic, then it's fine. Like I did a tattoo design for somebody once for like, you know, $60 or something like that, so that's not a big deal. Did a few tattoo designs here and there for people, like tiger clawing up the side of a girl's leg that I knew and different things. Oh, that guy, I haven't talked to him since he hired me, and just then never heard from him again. And I mean, the greatest thing was the whole project was a design for his gospel hip-hop group. So I don't think Jesus would have liked that so much, but you know, that's how it went. He told me that his tattoo artist, like he told him about the project I was working on, and the tattoo artist didn't like that. So I'm willing to bet the tattoo guy just kind of guilted him into going with him for the design. But this was already after, you know, the two of us had started things with what I was working on for him. So, you know, the decent thing at the very least would have been to say, hey, I'm going to have this other guy do it. So sorry about that, but you don't have to do it. He just never told me anything. So, whatever. What is that one? Oh, garbage. Yeah. It's fine. So, you know, it's one of those things that just kind of happens. And the best thing you can do from it is just learn your lesson. And then next time, like I was saying, use a contract. Make sure everything is clear. And no surprises, like I was saying. I mean, one other case where I didn't use a contract, or actually it was before I had come up with one, and I was talking to somebody and she was asking me for a price, and I was like, well, let me, you know, I have a chart. It's like a lot more complicated than just like kind of coming up with a price. So let me just like look at the chart and let you know. But you know, she really wanted to know the price. So I was like, all right, well, I guess it'd be, you know, about this much. And then the amount I told her was like definitely not high enough. But I did tell her, like, you know, the best thing is just let me look at the chart and we'll get back to you about it. But she just really wanted to know. So, you know, that's one of those things where sometimes people are excited and they really want to just, you know, get an idea of what it is or whatever. But you have to be careful with the price and making sure that you're getting paid enough for how much time it's going to take. Yeah, some people charge by the square inch. That's one way of doing it. I mean, pricing can be kind of tricky. There's a lot of different things that go into it. Like, you know, the level you're at, how many people are really following your work, and how many things have you already sold, what were they priced at, and you know, your area sometimes can kind of come into play with that too. Like what's the range that people are able to pay where you live. You could get a lot more for painting out in the Hamptons compared to somewhere in the middle of nowhere where there's no art scene and nobody really knows anything about art. There's this one little thing kind of floating around right here. It's like just one of these little guys just kind of in front of another cloud. Somebody who was really great at just painting things in really big loose strokes in a way that just really came out great was Singer Sargent. So he's somebody that's really worth looking at. Just check out how he did things. Lots of people in New York that's like one of their favorite artists, like, you know, top 3 or something. A lot of the time with pricing, there's different galleries and places that they don't really price by the work at all. Like, they don't look at the painting and decide, wow, this looks like it's worth this much, and they'll just strictly price based on, you know, the size. And, you know, if you have like a 20 by 30, or if you have, you know, 10 20 by 30s, they're all going to be just the same price because that's just how, you know, they do it. Which makes sense, and you don't want to confuse your collectors, and things should be consistent. But at the same time, I mean, I think that kind of doesn't necessarily always work for everybody. Because if you have 120 by 30 that you spent a year on, and then you have another one that you did, you know, in a week or something, you know, that doesn't really work out that way, realistically. Still darken this part down on the bottom here some more. You can definitely charge a different amount for a study because, sort of by definition, it's not really a full painting. It's just kind of a trial run, or, you know, a quick thing that you're doing just to see how it's going to be for a bigger painting or something like that. So I think that would definitely be an exception. And of course, if you're doing a charcoal drawing versus a painting, you know, these are different prices based on medium also. All right, so that's kind of dropping off a little bit too fast right there, but I think the value is right about where it should be on the bottom. And I'm going to just bring this up a little bit more right here. Maybe I should move this back. Need to get one of those like cameras that follows you around. Maybe I need to stand back a little bit more. I have to still remind myself to do that. And after all these years, easy to just kind of be too close and keep working on it too close up. I'm just, I don't know, gotta do something right here. Alright, guess that's... well, here, I'm gonna do a little bit more right here and then move on. I just started listening to Stephen King's, I want to say The Stranger. That's not it. The Outsider? I gotta check. I don't even know where that thing went. Well, this doesn't really matter. But yeah, listened to that years ago. I'm just like listening to it again because I kind of forgot the story. So I listen to that while I'm not streaming. You know what? This is all done already over here, so I don't know if I need to do anything else right there. Maybe I'm just ready to move on to the next part down. All right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna come down here and work on this part. So there's going to be a little bit less contrast on the area down below where it's like kind of getting further away. Things are getting a little bit hazier. Definitely not a lot of real darks further away also. This is one of those things though where, because I'm using a photo that was already manipulated by a photographer, I'm not sure how much of what I'm seeing is really like the way it actually should be versus just, you know, a photo that was combined with another photo and things are overlapping in a certain way that makes it look different. But, you know, this is what I have to work with. So, you know, it's a good photo. It's just certain little details like that are kind of unknown. I guess I'll just do how it looks in the photo. So now, actually, all right, I'm gonna have to just change something right here because I think it was actually two different photos of clouds that were combined here for this reference I'm using. And there's certain places that you can see they kind of don't, like the cloud will just sort of fade out in a way that it wouldn't actually do in reality. So, you know, I'm not going to paint it that way because it just doesn't really make sense. But, you know, if you don't really look too hard at it, it works fine for the photo on its own. And it's maybe a little bit dark for what I want here. Some places it kind of looks like the sky is maybe showing through a little bit here and there also, but kind of tough to tell. I'm just separating the places where I have the clouds ending and then new clouds beginning. This is sort of almost a layout type of thing, but, you know, just got it all grouped together and just kind of going in there and breaking them up from one giant shape to the individual ones. I want to bring a little bit more sky right down here. And I think we're going to get a little bit more of that blue out. And some more white maybe. Yep, going to need it pretty soon. So, actually for what I'm doing right here, there's not a lot of real darks. So I'm going to get some of the blue, but not going to need a ton. As things get further away, you generally want them to get less detailed, so that's definitely happening in this image here. And there's still details going on, but it just becomes a little bit more general. Just kind of putting in the shadow right now. And then we'll go back later and do the lighter parts. This down here, the whole thing is pretty much just kind of in the shadow. You don't really see what's going on there, so I'm just going to fill it in. Sometimes it's useful just to have an area like that where there's just not any detail going on, it's just kind of blank. You can sort of reinforce the other places where there are things happening. Okay, get a little more white out. I need to buy more white. This painting is so big, I'm like going through my white like crazy. Kind of mixing in the oil that separated a little bit when it came out. Get a little bit, yeah, a little bit more on there. Definitely going to want to put in a little bit more blue over on the right here. Got a dry chunk of something in my paint here. Maybe some dried tube paint from the tube. Schmelkelberry. A turtle. These clouds over here on the right, definitely, I'm liking how they came out. Very subtle. I want to say they're low contrast, but I mean, it's not really that much of a difference from the rest of the clouds, but I don't know, the way they came out, I'm just happy with it. It's nice when you actually paint things and you like the way they look. Softening the edge here between the one cloud above there and the other one underneath. Oh wow, found a big dry chunk of something. Must have dried in the tube. Hello, Mitsuri. Oh, how you doing today? Just working on these clouds here, and all the ones on the top are done, and then I'm just doing the ones down below, which are obviously smaller because they're further away. So I'm trying to keep them from getting too detailed because I don't want them looking like they're pulling too much attention away from everything else. I'll just bring this up right over here, a little bit more on the top edge. Today, were you here last time? I think I might have saw you a week or two ago. I think I need to go over this bottom edge right here just to make it a little bit darker, or at least separate that cloud from the other one underneath. As of right now, the only part of this whole painting that's done are the clouds on the, well, basically the top half of the sky. Everything else is still going to be painted over, at least somewhat. Most of it, like pretty much the whole thing. Just realizing that the part I'm working on right now, not exactly lining up with the photo, but I'm gonna leave it the way it is. There's all these little things happening. It's easy for that kind of stuff to happen. I don't know what's going on with this white. I keep finding all these chunks in there. That's unusual. What is twith? I haven't seen that one before. Is that like somebody that doesn't know how to say Twitch? Or somebody that doesn't know how to spell it? Do you even know what twith is? Like, that's not a word. Being careful not to overdo it with the detail here right next to the couple's head. You don't want to like anything distracting there, but just basically doing what I see in the reference. Are you still planning, Schmuckleberry, to start painting again? I've been thinking about it for a while. You have like any ideas for a project you might want to start working on? Huh. Well, I am a ventriloquist, you know. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I mean, that's, is it always like that or just today? There's a delay. Is it normally that way? I actually signed in with a different kind of method today from what I usually do. Well, I'm wondering if that's the cause. Well, I'm multi-streaming to several different places at the same time, so there's 2 different ways to sort of sign in on the website that I use, and today I tried it through a different way for the first time, and I'm wondering if that's messing things up with the audio. I mean, it shouldn't be. The plan is not to have messed up audio. So Summer says, Leonardo da Vinci used mirror in Italian in his inventions notebooks so that no one could take his ideas. What was that? Leonardo da Vinci used a mirror in Italian in his inventions notebook so that no one could take his... Okay, you're talking about when he wrote backwards? Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, like, I can read backwards, so I guess I understand the idea with it. It's a little odd to me that no one would be able to just, like, read backwards or just hold up a mirror. Unless mirrors were just really rare back then, because it was considered like a luxury or something. But I don't know. I guess that's interesting. I mean, knowing him, he probably just did it for fun more than anything. But at the same time, even still today, there's plenty of people that come up with ideas and then somebody else steals it from them before they actually get to make it, or maybe they already make it and then somebody steals it and tries to pretend it's their own, and then they make money with it. So, I guess any kind of techniques you can use to try to protect yourself, might as well. More chunks in my white. What do you think of it, Summer? Just be careful my clouds in the middle here don't end up looking like Mario Brothers clouds. I'm kind of headed that way. Yeah, Da Vinci came up with the first helicopter, parachute, tank, scuba diving outfit. Yeah, I've come up with lots of inventions that other people already made. But I've thought of some things that haven't been made yet. Oh wow, schmuckleberries can read backwards. Wait, Leonardo's plans would have been foiled against you. Yeah, I don't really feel like it's all that hard. Maybe if he had like really bad handwriting and it was backwards, maybe the two together would be really difficult to actually read. Well, you know, Mario Brothers clouds weren't exactly realistic, so probably not what I'm going for in this painting. If you want to make a painting with them, then, you know, feel free. I mean, I don't really want like a big smiley face on this cloud right here in the background. That would be kind of funny though if there was. Yeah, see, maybe that's Leonardo's problem, was his handwriting was too nice. He needed to get like really one of his like apprentices to write his notes that were really terrible. Then no one would know what he was writing. This is not what's happening in the reference. I gotta change that. Now, what happened right there? One of my students was just telling me recently he did a thing called a game jam, where he just made a game with a couple of his friends in like 3 or 4 days. They made a sort of Mario Brothers style game where there's like character jumping around on stuff. So apparently this is a thing that people do now. There was like, I don't know, 6,000 games or something that were created, or I don't know, 2,000 or 6, whatever it was, for this thing a little while ago. Then there was a prize for the best one, I guess. That's kind of cool. I don't really know anything about software that they used or anything. Still something kind of going on here I have to fix. It's just, I don't know, something is a little bit off here. And of all the clouds, you definitely don't want the ones right around the couple's heads to be weird looking. Who bought Leonardo's original notebooks? I don't know. I didn't hear about that. I'm guessing the Medicis didn't. This is probably somebody more recent. Was it maybe Steve Jobs? Seems like something he would have done. Oh, there you go. Bill Gates for 30 million in 94. Okay. Well, I probably heard that before. That's why I said Steve Jobs. Well, he was the first person to actually do any anatomical studies. I don't know if the notebooks included all that stuff, but it's pretty historical in that way. Yeah, Bill. Just got to go back over the edge right here and kind of measure this all out to make sure that the edge of the bride's hair is in the right spot and all that. So just kind of wiping some paint off of there so that it's in the right spot still. Yeah, since 1994, Leonardo has definitely only grown in popularity with the Da Vinci Code and all the other weird myths and things that people have created about him. And there's the fact that ever since then, like in 94, the art world was still kind of still normal, but now it's just kind of like on speed with a side of meth and maybe a little bit of heroin. I mean, the art world today, like, I mean, if Van Gogh, like, I would love to see a reaction from Van Gogh if he could still actually be alive right now and see that his paintings were going for like hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, like, I think he wouldn't have any idea how to react to that. That'd be so crazy. You know, now that I'm looking at the reference right here, even the reference looks a little bit weird in this spot. And I'm not really sure what's going on right here. It's like, I don't know, it's not totally distinct. Unfortunate that I have to get rid of this part because I actually liked how that looked, but it just is not kind of working on its own as it is, or as it was. If those notebooks sold today, well, I mean, just the fact that Bill Gates bought them alone increases the value, I'm sure. With all the other stuff, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were worth, like, I don't know, over $1 billion altogether. And then we got bananas selling for $250,000 in Florida. Anything is possible. All right, so that looks better. All right, that is definitely more what I want. So keep going over on the side here. Well, I got a little spot to finish right there. Not really totally sure what I'm going to do about the space in between the couple's face here in the middle. I mean, I guess I'll just make it white like it is in the photo. Because really there's these mountains coming together here. Of course, we don't want a big mountain thing right in between their noses. That might look a little odd, but that's going to be something to figure out, which I'm not looking forward to. Sometimes you get this kind of stuff that happens in a kind of composition where I really am not sure how that's going to look. If I just try to make it white like it is in the photo, like it might not really look like it makes sense, but I'll find out eventually. Kind of painting over the bride's face here a little bit, but I don't know, maybe I'll wipe some of that off. Hey, Brian. What are you doing in New York? You go there for a shoot or something? Yeah, this is already looking a little bit weird, just bringing the light area down this far. No. No, I'll have to do something there. Sparrows. Well, I mean, there's some famous eating establishments in New York. I didn't know Sparrows was one of them that people travel in from out of town for. Let me know if the audio has any delay. Apparently there's something strange happening. Oh, antiquarian book fair. That's like a fancy couple of words. Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to be sending a little email over to my streaming service again. There's been plenty of those already. Yeah, I signed in a different way today, so I don't know if that's the problem. I normally do it a different way. I don't know, maybe that's it. There's nothing else that I changed that should be causing any weird stuff. Aside from the normal weird stuff. Alright. I'm gonna keep going with these clouds over here. Oh, actually, just wipe off some paint right here. Really got the sizing just right for the hair when I first started doing the layout and everything here. So all that's left of the clouds is this one little area over here on the bottom left. Everything else, and I gotta put in some more blue sky on the right there. Everything else I think is okay. Pretty much. Unless I discover some weird thing I need to adjust, but... seems fine. So did you find anything interesting at the Antiquarium book fair? Antiquarian? Is that like really expensive books or just old? Like anything that's old? Okay, here's going to be, well, I'm going to clap with my glove. I'll take off my glove. So here's a little test. Here's my clap. Probably was going to blow out the signal on the mic, but now we can see if the signal is early or late for the audio. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter in the end. If it's messed up, nothing I can do to fix it. Not that I know of. Okay, the audio is 10 seconds late. Well, that doesn't really help at all, but okay. Yeah, I bought the computer I'm using now around the time that Bill Gates bought the Leonardo da Vinci notebooks. Maybe that's why there's this big latency problem. I'm actually on a Mac, so you know it's not that. Yeah, the fair starts tomorrow. Maybe some of those same rich people that don't know what to do with their money are going to go to like a, I don't know, new agey music fair, or festival or something next. That seems to be big in that community. I feel like that's the kind of place where you might see some kind of interesting steampunk stuff, but maybe not. So how long are you going to be in New York for? I got a kind of a larger chunk of just shadow over here, which I think is helping this whole kind of bunch of things that are happening over on the left side here. I'm gonna try not to mess with it too much. Hey, Brian, maybe while you're in New York, you can look for a different place to get your film developed so that it doesn't get ruined next time. And there's got to be somebody there doing it. Yeah. Well, you can definitely do plenty of shoots in New York. Oh, okay. Well, have fun with that. Are you actually looking for books for anything in particular? That seems like a real specific reason to come in. Just, you know, I think you said you're doing a shoot also, but yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, definitely no point in going back to that other place. Keep on finding these little chunks of stuff in my white paint for some reason. Don't know why. Very annoying. Oh. So, you're in contact with a book collector? Is that what you're saying? A pretty specific thing to be shooting. I guess you could have some really cool ways to set up old books, especially if they have the gold writing and stuff like that, like leather-bound books. I need to move this over on the left, but I kind of like the way it looks on the side there. So I probably am not going to move it at all. Yeah, it's fine. Well, flakiness tends to be attracted by people in the art world. So that's hard to escape. Oh, okay. And I mean, I guess she's selling things for a ton of money. That's how she's surviving, but it's hard to picture any kind of bookstore even surviving New York at all at this point. Everything is so expensive. But it's nice if she's able to do it. We were just talking before about how enormous Da Vinci has gotten ever since the Da Vinci Code came out. As his notebooks were sold for $30 million to Bill Gates back in '94. So there would definitely be more now. Like, way more. I don't know where this line came from right here. It looks weird, so I'm going to get rid of it. Okay. I'm getting a little bit more of a picture of this place now. Just like a New York store, like knickknacks in New York, kind of a thing. I went into a place one time, kind of like that. They had like human skulls you could buy, and a living black widow that was really, really big in a glass bowl. So I'm getting the feeling it may be one of those kind of places. Definitely interesting being able to look at the skulls, because you could see a really big difference from the one to the next as far as proportions and things. I remember the one was just like so wide compared to the others. It was practically like part of an elephant skull or something. It's like completely different shape. I don't know how one goes about getting a human skull to sell in a store. I'm really spending a lot of time in this one little place over here, but I think I've almost got it now. Yeah, that's probably fine. Okay, I'm gonna just move on now. It was like the Mummer Museum in Philly. Still never got to go and see that place. All kinds of interesting things in glass jars and well, I guess that's the majority of what they had, apparently. Gross things in glass jars. So, I'm gonna probably want to add in a little bit more blue for the sky right there. Yeah, I imagine in Mexico, sure, there's a different market for human skulls. I heard there was a Radiolab episode where they were talking about years ago. I just said like I was Canadian just now. A boat. They were talking about how in, I don't know, like down like along the Mexican border, people, you know, travel illegally across the border, and there was this story they were doing about exactly what happens to a body, you know, if somebody gets killed or whatever, they die just from dehydration or, you know, things like that. And they found that within 24 hours, if somebody dies in that spot, like there was absolutely no trace of them 24 hours later. Because like the buzzards pick it apart, and then, you know, it's just gone. So part of the story was about the fact that there's a certain number of people that are, you know, at this time, this was, you know, before Venezuela was going crazy and all these other things were happening. But there was a certain number of people that were supposedly crossing the border each year that died there. But they were saying the number was clearly way, way, way higher than the official number. So Not that I'm saying people should just go hang out there waiting for a skull or something, but pretty messed up. So I think, I'm just looking at where do I want to start. Maybe on the top left here, or do I want to start over this way? Yeah, I guess I'll start over here. Might as well. Yes, I know what happens when Kramer used to go across the border. So there's a big cluster of clouds over here, and just like on the other side on the right, the shadows are nowhere near as dark as what we have for this one here. So just have to be careful how dark I go with this. And that's too dark. Well, instead of wiping that off, I'm just going to get some white and just go over it like that. And just keep going, adding white until it gets to the value I actually want. All right, that's right around where it should be, I think. Better. Brian, you gonna hit Soho and just check out what's going on in the galleries over there? I don't think there's really as much of a gallery scene back where you're living now. I'm gonna mix up a bunch of this color here instead of just scraping it together little by little. And I'm gonna have to get more white. So I don't really need a whole lot more here, but I'm really getting low on that tube. It's one of the things about having a painting this big, like I literally could do potentially like 10 paintings that are just on the small side that would use the same amount of paint as this one painting. So to really, like, I think I'm gonna have to put it in an order very soon for some white, like maybe tonight. It's getting a little small. Oh yeah, you can skip through the video. Just go skimming around. Yeah, I was thinking, saw somebody making a time lapse of just like streams that he'd done. He just like put them all together, so I might start doing that and just, I mean, I'm already recording a time lapse right now anyway with a different camera than what I'm using for the stream, but yeah, just going through it really quick can be kind of cool just to look at it and see the progress. Oh boy. Well, hopefully your favorite is going to be at MoMA if you're going to go stop by over there. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that you can go see there that you like. I think, yeah, I'm going to add a little more oil here. Are you into Bruce Nauman? I remember my art teacher, I don't know if we ever talked about him, but my art teacher in high school kind of got me into him back then a little bit. And he had a whole thing going on with MoMA at the time. He had a whole show that was going on. Pretty cool, very modern. that wasn't too much white. I gotta really conserve this stuff now. Well, I can always cover it in foil if it's too much. Yeah, sometimes with the time lapses, even for me, like I'll be like finishing a painting and go back and look at all the recording I did of the time lapse stuff, and for me it's almost like, oh, that's how I did that. Oh, look at that. Like after hundreds of hours, you kind of forget. Well, I don't know if I would say forget, but just seeing it again, it's almost like watching it from somebody else's point of view when I sit all together in a time lapse. Pretty hazy over here in general on this left side. Like, actually not a lot of places where there's really a bright white area. Might want to bring the shadow a little bit darker over here, but yeah, probably a little more. I think I need a little bit more oil. This is kind of dragging too much. Sometimes it's not really that obvious when you need to add oil to the paint. It may seem like it kind of feels like it's okay, but you really have to like put effort into moving the brush, and you've got a bunch of paint on the brush, then well, sometimes that means that it's just underbound and needs more oil added to it, which can really slow things down over time if you don't add more, because it just takes more effort to actually get it to do anything. Now I feel like that might have been too much. Well, whatever. It's fine. I think I have these clouds pretty much where they need to go. Pretty soon I'm going to put in the lighter tones. I guess I'll do it now. Kind of wiping off when I get too much of one color on the brush, and instead of wiping it on a paper towel, if I can wipe it off somewhere that I'm actually going to need it later, I just do that a lot of the time. Saves paint and time. Wow. Coming up on 2.5 hours, so I guess I will finish this area over here for the clouds, and then that'll be it for today. And you can all just go to your weird book show activities and things after that, and I've got plenty more to do on this thing tonight, probably. So this is probably not really showing up so much on camera. I'm just putting the whites in, and then I'm going to go back in and do the areas in between the light parts and the shadows. But like having that paint already on there, I can kind of borrow it from that area and sort of blend things. Inspector Gadget arm. Well, I used to watch Inspector Gadget when I was growing up. Maybe he had more influence on me than I realized. There. Okay, thought I had a hair in there. It's just the way that the brush strokes look. Working at a theater when the Inspector Gadget movie came out, that was a real miss, showing Dr. Claw. I never watched the whole thing. I mean, it was a kid's movie, so I was like, not really, not surprisingly, Inspector Gadget. I didn't really care about it enough to go and see it, but it's kind of like the cool thing about Dr. Claw is you never saw his face. I think that was Alec Baldwin. I always wanted one of those computer books that Penny had. Okay, I'm just checking if there's any more. Well, okay, there's a little bit of light over here on left, on the far left here, there's this one little kind of dark chunk of cloud that's covering this area here. Not sure if I want to put it in there, but I guess I will. That was a fast decision. Oh, the kids that Summer works with at the Children's Hospital love Inspector Gadget now on Hulu. You mean the cartoon, not the movie? It was a good cartoon. I used to watch it a lot. Back in the old days. And there's Brain. I guess, was Brain in the movie? I guess they must have just had like a regular dog for Brain. Well, I think another, well, I guess that'd be a reboot. They did another Inspector Gadget now. They already made the movie, which is based on the show, which came out in the 80s, so that's definitely not out of the question at this point. Maybe that could be in the works already. I guess there's a lot of different ways you can go with Penny. Yeah, there's a good cartoon. I actually had this little, it wasn't even that little, it's like this big little figurine guy, Inspector Gadget, and he had like, his leg, his arm could shoot out, and all these different little things that he could do. I remember it being a kind of a fragile toy though. Had to be kind of careful with it. Alright, so I'm gonna just go back now and do a little bit more of these little whiter areas, whitish. Oh, there's another live-action movie in the works. Well, wonder who they're going to get to play him. All right, I'm gonna mix up a little bit more of this other blue here. Well, just whatever, I'll get something in between the two of them. Guess I didn't get too much extra white out compared to what I need here. Yeah, Alec Baldwin. It's kind of like when they had the Pink Panther reboot with Steve Martin. I think they had to get rid of Kato altogether, which was really unfortunate. I mean, I guess it was kind of a racist character, but it was really funny. So does that make it okay? I mean, not into racism, but I don't know. I feel like Kato was okay as a character. It wasn't like blatantly. I don't know if I would even call it racist, honestly, but Aunt Jemima is not even around anymore, so we're living in a different world. think this is actually a little bit too light, so I'm gonna have to go darker. Which I actually noticed before, but then I didn't really pay attention to it till now, so I have to just go down some more. This color is just the slightest bit of black in there. It's just mainly blue. You don't really notice it as much when it's kind of like this, but it's really a lot more blue than it may seem. And it looks pretty gray. Well, it'd be interesting to see what happens with the whole Rust thing. Alec Baldwin disaster with that movie. I mean, I guess it's still going to come out at some point. That'll be weird. Well, I guess the shadow is, I don't know, maybe right around where it should be now. So I can go in there and do the mid-tone again, at least mid for this area. Gonna bring up this one little edge right here a little bit more. I'm going like that. Well, I mean, not really like that, but needs a little something. I think I'm gonna need a little bit more white here to finish this area up. Yeah. You have to be careful not to stretch out your paint too much if you get lazy with getting new paint out. Usually doesn't work well. Yeah, I think I might have heard that Rust was kind of done, but I mean, yeah, I think the plan has always been to release it, but it's just going to be really weird. Kind of like when The Crow came out back in like '95 or whatever. Brandon Lee was killed during the making of it. They had to just kind of like throw together an alternate version of the movie because it was mostly shot, or it was only maybe like 3/4 shot or something like that. And another ridiculous, stupid way somebody died because of a prop gun. That one just malfunctioned. It wasn't like some idiot put a live round in it like in Rust, but You know, same, very, actually extremely similar situation. Of course, in that case, it was, you know, the main star that died, not just, you know, person that wasn't really on screen. The whole thing with Alec Baldwin, like, yeah, I think he was totally cleared of charges. I mean, the whole trial was kind of just a joke from the beginning. You know, the prop master, like, I don't know. There was some talk of the fact that Alec Baldwin has certain people that say that don't like him. They push the trial, you know, to happen, but I think it was just kind of ridiculous that he was even on trial at all, regardless of whether he pulled the trigger or not, or any of these other little things that I don't think should really matter. He was given a gun and he was told it was clean or cold, they say. So the fact that there's a person whose job it is to make sure that guns are safe, and that person gave him the gun, you know, that could be kind of the end of the story, in my opinion, as far as like how far his liability goes or whatever, culpability. One of those abilities. I'm thinking now. I don't know if I can get away without adding more paint on here. Actually, I've got it mostly covered. I might be able to get away with using what I have already. I don't know. No. I'll get some more. Alec Baldwin is a pretty cool show. I haven't heard it for a little while, but it's called Here's the Thing on NPR. He just interviews people, you know, different people that he likes, basically. He had Tom York on one time, and sometimes it's just economists or people that are kind of less celebrities. But he's good at interviewing. Yeah, I've heard of a few of them that were really interesting. Which thing is the first thing that it seems I'd be sure about? Just need a little bit of this white here. Gotta really be careful. I was planning to go over this entire thing on the bottom here. I might have to wait on that a little bit until I get more of this paint, because it's gonna be running out soon. I swear that tube was like more than half full when I started this painting. Yeah, well, I saw Dwayne Johnson after the whole thing happened on the Rust set. He had publicly said he's not gonna, like, he was declaring he's not gonna do any more movies where there are guns involved if they don't come up with, you know, prop guns, because what they use now is just real guns. So, you know, he said something pretty blatantly obvious, like at this point in history, with all the technology and things we have, there should be guns that we could use that are not actually capable of firing live ammunition. It's just kind of silly that there isn't anything being used like that right now. So I don't know if anybody else has kind of jumped on that bandwagon. But I know on Rust, they were doing all kinds of just ridiculous stuff. Like they're having target practice. Like the people, just like the crew, was just going and having like target practice and then, you know, going back to work and stuff like that. So clearly that was related to what happened with the accident. I mean, I think it's pretty just incredible that anybody would even do something like that when you're shooting a movie. It's not like, you know, the guns are going to go back on a shelf or something when you're done and not be used for anything. Well, I didn't know Sigourney was anti-gun, but just from what I know about her in general, I guess I'm not too surprised. But, I mean, you know, her using a gun in a movie is different than other uses of it in real life, so I could see her just having a gun on set, but not being into it in real life. Pulse rifle is still the coolest gun that was ever in existence anywhere, ever in the universe. I feel like this looks a little bit too bright, maybe because it's just too big compared to the next cloud. Maybe not. I guess it's fine. Got a bunch of little things happening here that are not really that extremely important. Kind of off to the side, not a big deal, but make sure there's not going to be anything weird that causes an issue, so that something just looks like it doesn't make sense or is confusing, whatever. Some of these just value changes are so subtle, just kind of like I was talking about the top areas of the clouds there. You know, they're really subtle, but down here, they're just very close by. Just the slightest little change is like the edge of one cloud versus the one next to it. Going right up against the kind of mountains that are way off in the distance on the bottom over here. A lot of what I have here is going to be painted over for these mountains. I just kind of needed something basically there, almost as placeholders. But I might end up keeping a bunch of it. I don't know. There's one little light area here peeking out behind a couple darker, but you know what? This actually needs to be darker right here. I have to go in there and just add a little bit more gray on the left. Give this a little bit more texture on the left here. I mean, really, all of this is on the left, so I probably don't need to say on the left anymore. But it's just you know, too blank just now. Got to give it something so that it has some sort of shape. There's that little piece down there. Which, I don't even hear the background music. Which one is even on right now? Is it the burger song? I've been thinking about changing the music for a little while. I downloaded a bunch of other stuff, but I didn't actually finish putting it all together in a playlist. This is again just like really subtle changes in the dark areas on the edge here. Wesley Willis. Yeah, I didn't even realize they were singing about burgers in that song for a while, and then eventually I was just like, I don't know, doing something, and I listened to it and I was like, oh, that's what they're doing. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know if I would compare it to Wesley Willis, who also sang about hamburgers. Yeah, Facebook likes to mute segments of the video after it's recorded because it thinks there's copyright infringement on the music, but all the music I'm using is specifically made for streamers and it's no copyright. So, you know, that's really fun. That's one of the reasons I was going to switch over to other music, which was made by a different group of people, but it's probably going to do the same thing with them also. Alright, I'm kind of liking how that little chunk is over there. Actually still have a little bit of gesso showing in this one spot, which is annoying because now I already have that part done, but I have to go around it. I mean, I guess I could leave it, but I'm not going to. Or sometimes painting white on white, like you have to look so close to even see which part you've done already. And now I have to put back a little bit of what I just took off by accident. Right over here. Probably more than was there before, but whatever. Gotta get a little bit more of this blue out. Now, okay, I'm probably getting a little bit too obsessed over this one little part on the left here, but I'll move on now. Give it a little bit more texture and kind of random bits. Maybe I should throw some Wesley Willis on the new playlist over there for the next time. That kind of changed the experience a little bit. This whole area over here needs to get a little bit darker, I think. Just slightly. Okay, that's better. It's starting to look more like clouds. That's the plan. I saw Alec Baldwin has a new reality show starting on TLC early next year, so that'll be interesting. I mean, really, I think not like there needs to be any like public uproar over him with the whole arrest thing at this point. He had a trial, and he's not really responsible for anything that happened. That's kind of the end of it. But what a weird, just the whole thing. Oh, The Cure have a new song out today for the first time in 16 years. I didn't know that. Hopefully it's good. Remember Robert Smith was saying in like the, I don't know, 96 or something like that, that he told himself for a long time he was going to have to retire because otherwise he was going to become a joke, and he didn't want that to happen. And I guess he just changed his mind. I mean, as long as the music they're making is good, who cares? Yeah, probably a tour. Kind of interesting to me how many people love The Cure but would never listen to any other band that is known as a goth band, since The Cure is known as the original goth band to most people. And then there's the whole thing of people calling the goth look emo now, which just drives me crazy. But anyway, I guess they're just words. I really would like to know how that got started, though. They're not the same thing. Alright, so I'm just bringing the shadow up here. And kind of lessen that little light area up on the top there. Kind of just barely peeking around the edge over there. Oh, Alone. Seems like a fitting name. Oh, I'm gonna darken this one area right here again. Well, 16 years is a long ass time. But there's a new Frasier. There's a new Beetlejuice. Why not a new Cure album? Just bring back everything that existed 40 years ago. Or 30. Whatever. There's so many things like that now. Actually, it'd be kind of interesting to really just, I don't know, somehow just kind of draw a parallel between, say, like 1988 and all the things that people were into then, and all the things that people are doing, you know, and watching now that are the same. Like, I think there's really a lot of room there to just, I don't know, you could even make like a TV show based on that comparison and have like a different point in the 80s or maybe even the 90s and then, you know, today. And then have like people have the exact same conversations about what they just did over the weekend. Like, oh, I just went to see The Cure. Oh, did you see Beetlejuice? Yeah, I saw Beetlejuice. It was so good. I'm going to go see it again next week. And that could be like a really funny, I don't know, something. I kind of thought I was going to be done with these clouds by now, but, you know, in that way, it's just right on time that I'm not finished yet because I thought I was going to be finished already. Oh, thanks, Summer. What if they made another Cheers? That'd be crazy. I mean, I guess you still got a lot of the same people around. They'd have to do something to mix it up. But seriously, like if I had nothing better to do, I could just like make a YouTube channel just with a story each week of people doing things that were the same exact thing they did in 1988 as compared to today. Or maybe like people and their kids. Like you have the original people, and then they're grown up, and then their kids are doing things today. And it's all the same things. And we're in this weird Mobius loop where things are just repeating over and over again. I'm gonna do something over here. This is like, gotta get broken up a little more. This is a little bit too white right over here. Gotta chomp that down. Yeah. think I'm almost there with these clouds. This is a little too solid right here. I don't like it now. Well, that looked better before. Okay. I managed to save the cloud. That was close. Well, I'll leave that up to you, Brian. You can just compile all my sounds together. I'm gonna have to put a little thing right over here just to separate these clouds some more. I remember hearing, I don't know, somewhere, somebody had just taken like a couple of debates and gotten rid of all the actual words and left only the yeah, and then that stuff in between. And somebody was thinking about an answer. They just put them all, like all that stuff together. And it was really weird hearing it all just like one after another. Okay, I think maybe that's enough. So I can still add in a little bit of blue sky here and there in a couple places, but that's pretty much the clouds there. So Let me just take a little look over here. Yeah, so everybody that stopped by, all, you know, 2 of you, thanks for coming and, you know, hanging out here for a while. And Brian, enjoy your book foraging, not buying anything experience, and anybody else that's on there. So thanks for stopping by. So I'm going to be doing it again next week. Probably the same time, 6:30 on Eastern on Thursday. And please like, follow, subscribe, not to my paper route, but just, you know, my channel and stuff. And I'll see you next time. Oh, that's the wrong view.